Oh, wow. Thanks so much. How's everybody doing? Cool. First of all, it's an absolute honor to be at Powell's. This place is like a cathedral. It's an amazing establishment that should be supported. I do say, though, that out of, frankly, great respect for this place, that I think Powell's is an important enough place that we can say honestly that this isn't a place where Tucker Max belongs or should ever read. It's a comedian who thinks date rape is funny who spoke here last week. So not a big fan of that, but love you guys. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, I want to start just by telling a story, if I could. And it's a story I sometimes tell at other events. So if you've ever heard me read before or speak before and you've heard me tell this story, try to look surprised. This is a true story. I was doing a book reading for my first book. It's called What's My Name, Fool? Sports and Resistance in the United States. And the cover of the book, by the way, is a big picture of Muhammad Ali's face going like this, like a big Ali face. And I was doing the store at a bookstore, very left-wing book collective kind of place in a city that I don't really want to name. I was Philadelphia, and whatever. And I walked into the store, and I said to one of the workers there, I said, "Hey, my name's Dave Zirin. I'm here to read from my book, What's My Name, Fool?" And the person there looked at me and said, but you're white." And I said, "Well, yeah, last I checked, I am white." And they said, but isn't that you on the cover of the book?" And I said, "No, that's Muhammad Ali on the cover of the book. I'm sorry." And then later at that same store, and I swear this is true, you're just going to have to believe me, I bumped into another person in the collective, and they said, "Oh, you wrote What's My Name, Fool?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Why did you spend so much time writing a book about Mr. T?" And I said, "No, that's not What's My Name, Fool. That would be I Pity the Fool. That's a very different kind of concept." And I remember looking around this bookstore, and on the walls are pictures of people like Malcolm X, and I remember seeing Emma Goldman and the socialist leader Eugene Debs, like all of these, real left-wing radical icons all around. And I was thinking, like, my goodness, these folks don't have knowledge of the person who has to be called, without question, the most famous draft resistor in the history of time, Muhammad Ali. I mean, I don't even know who would be second in that regard. I mean, Thoreau, maybe, I don't know. But number one, Muhammad Ali. And there's somebody who, as the most famous athlete on earth, had one foot in the African-American freedom struggle. There was Malcolm X on the wall, one foot in the anti-war struggle. There's Eugene Debs on the wall, who got 10 years for making an anti-war speech. And they don't know Muhammad Ali. And what it says to me so much is that there's this profound alienation that exists between people who see themselves as being on the left, people who see themselves as being progressive, and the world of sports. And that gap is really problematic. And most of the times when I speak in more progressive, friendly environs, like in Portland, or, people come up to me, and it's like they either come up to me and they say, like, "Yeah, I can't stand sports because it's all a bunch of right-wing hooey," or they come up to me like it's this big secret we share, and they're like, "Hey, man, how you doing? I just want you to know I like your work because I really like sports." All right. Like they're practically passing me a note or something, like, "I like sports." And they act like enjoying sports is like something that they do like at 3 a.m. in their bathroom with the door locked, watching it on a little TV, and someone's like, "What are you doing in there?" "Close the door, I'm watching sports," like as if it's something to be ashamed of. And this is a problem to me because while, yes, sports has certainly produced its share of muck, I come from a town where people root for a team called the Redskins, for goodness sakes. There's more than enough racism, sexism, homophobia, nationalism to go around in sports, without question. But that's easy to point out. In fact, I do it for a living. That's how easy it is. But the harder part is understanding for a second why it is people have this association in their minds, like with the early days of the civil rights movement with Jackie Robinson, or why they associate the 1960s with Muhammad Ali, or the women's liberation struggle with Billie Jean King, or LGBT rights with Martina Navratilova. Like these icons of these different moments. Why is it that the most famous photograph, arguably in the history of sports, wasn't a moment of athletic triumph, but was probably Tommy Smith and John Carlos raising their black glove fist to the heavens at the 1968 Olympics, and trying to understand exactly what it is about sports that can actually inspire people to think in a way that actually is about challenging power and challenging the system that we live in instead of just being pacified by it. Because that's something you hear all the time, like, oh, sports is just the opium of the masses, and I'm like, well, what's wrong with opium? I mean, sometimes, not a bad way to spend an evening. But it's still a problem that we can look at those things in such a top-down, mechanical way and not try to understand what's beautiful about sports. And that's where I stand. And I think we especially miss an opportunity where it has to do with the idea of challenging power inside sports or building a movement in sports. Because sports in this country has become so much more than sports. And that's what the book Bad Sports, How Owners Are Ruining the Games We Love is all about. Like, we could go on a magical mystery tour, if you like, from Detroit, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Oakland, and what you see in city after city after city is a very similar story. You see a manufacturing base that's been eroded. You see unions that have been crushed. You see unemployment at disturbingly high levels. And you see these brand gleaming new stadiums. And there's a sense that I think that we can build a movement around this in our different cities. A movement that says that billionaires actually need to pay for their own stadiums, first and foremost. And if they're not willing to do so, then the people have the right to claim some sort of public ownership of these parks. No more socializing the debt and privatizing the profit. And one of the reasons why I've been so excited about coming to Portland is that this city is in a lot of ways an example of what it means to build resistance to one of these stadium projects. I mean, the idea that you had a gentleman named Merritt Paulson in this town. First of all, the idea that there's anybody on earth named Merritt Paulson is just very silly to me. I mean, obviously, the people I'm sure know this, the son of Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, net worth of over $800 million, named his son Merritt. I mean, I guess legacy was too obvious a thing to name him. This is my son, Merritt. And the idea also that Merritt Paulson was saying that he was demanding $85 million from the city of Portland to build a stadium. $85 million in a city that actually has per capita one of the higher rates of child poverty in the country.
You've been listening to the first 8 minutes of a program featuring sports writer, columnist, and author Dave Zirin, talking about his latest book, Bad Sports: How Owners Are Ruining the Games We Love. This program is available in full at the Vimeo Home for Videos website at vimeo.com. Just search on the keywords PDX Justice and Zirin. You can also link to this program via the PDX Justice Media Productions website at pdxjustice.org. Many of our programs are available on DVD and Blu-ray video discs. Please write to us for ordering information at pdxjustice@riseup.net. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for supporting listener-sponsored radio, public access cable television, net neutrality, independent bookstores, and all forms of grassroots, democratic, community media.